Esquire magazine went to print yesterday with the first interview of the Navy SEAL who shot and killed Osama bin Laden. He shared some dramatic details about the raid, but the eye-opening came when he detailed how he wants to retire early, and he is facing a future with no health care, he says, and no pension. And that's why the Esquire cover says the man who killed Osama bin Laden is, well, screwed. Here is Phil Bronstein. He's the man who got the big interview, appearing on Hannity last night.
He gets no benefits in terms of pension, because if you quit before you're 20 years, you get zero. Unlike private enterprise, you know, where there are systems,
you get
years for service for years served. But he gets there's actually insurance available through the VA. It's only for him. It's not for his family. 5 years of free insurance. President Bush signed that into law in 2008. But he didn't know about it, because part of the problem, so he didn't get it. So part of the problem is there are some services out there, but the DOD is not very good at communicating that to the vets.
Joining us now to talk about all of this is Pete Hegseth. He's the CEO of Concerned Veterans for America. Hi, Pete.
How you doing, Alisyn? Thanks for having me.
What an expose. I mean, on so many different levels.
Yeah.
To hear from this guy who Phil Bronstein said checked and double-checked many sources, and this is the shooter of Osama bin Laden.
Yeah.
How can this hero go without a pension, go without benefits, go without health care? How is that possible?
Well, his story very powerfully exemplifies many of the dysfunctions and difficulties our warriors are facing when they come off of the battlefield, both in the transition process, which sometimes happens in a matter of days with very little information, as he powerfully demonstrated, and also into the VA system, which, while it may be caring for him, isn't always able to care for his loved ones, and also is just a bloated bureaucracy that doesn't meet the needs of 21st century veterans. It's a pencil and paper bureaucracy growing in scope that has to be dragged into the digital age to actually meet the needs of these warriors who are facing different injuries, unseen injuries that require mental health specialists. We don't have enough of them, and the VA isn't meeting these needs.
Speaking of his injuries, let me just lay out the laundry list that he details of what he has acquired in the past 16 years that he has been doing these heroic Navy SEAL raids. This is from the article. I'll read it to you. But the shooter will discover soon enough that when he leaves after 16 years in the Navy, his body filled with scar tissue, arthritis, tendinitis, eye damage, and blown discs. Here's what he gets from his employer and a grateful nation: nothing. No pension, no health care, no protection for himself or his family. There's been some criticism of this because he does get health care, as you just said, through the VA system,
Yep.
but it turns out he didn't know how to access this, and nobody ever told him. That's a flaw in the system.
That is a flaw in the system, and it's hard to believe, actually, of a Navy SEAL of 16 years wouldn't know that. But you know what? It's so complicated and so disparate that it's not impossible to believe that he wouldn't know. You know, these guys, think of them, they are the best of the best of the best. Think of professional athletes at the top of their game. They've got training staffs waiting on them. They're getting all their needs met. And then when they're done with their career, they're out there, you know, like you and me at Anytime Fitness, you know, waiting at their doctor's office in the regular world. What's the big difference? That athlete was paid millions of dollars to do what they do. This Navy SEAL made maybe 60 grand a year, plus some combat pay. Now he can't talk about what he did because it's all classified. And he's walking into a civilian world where he can't talk about it. He's not a rich man without immediate ways to cash in on it unless he wants to carry a weapon as a contractor. So he's in a really, really tough spot. I don't think our nation has fully come to grips within this new world with new media where names and identities can be exposed. How we're going to care for these guys and ensure they're on the track they should be, so that we're meeting our sacred obligation to these warriors, literally to this guy who put 2 bullets in the head of Osama bin Laden.
It sounds like we don't have a plan, frankly, to care for him or his family. In fact, you're right. He says he did make $60,000 a year. That's not a lot of money to sock away. And even if he could go to the to the VA health system, that's often described.
He should go
as,
to UVA.
Right. That's better, because the VA health system is described as subpar, and it doesn't cover his family. If you can't cover your sick child, you might go bankrupt when they have some illness.
You almost feel like you may as well not have insurance. Now, there is a TRICARE transitional program that family members are supposed to be able to be enrolled in. But again, if he didn't know about the VA side, you know, what does he know about the transitional TRICARE benefits for his family? It's a disgrace. We must do better, and the VA's got to answer for it.
Very quickly, Pete, how do we do that? How do we do better?
Well, again, you've got to digitize this stuff. You've got to create an incentive where I've gone through the VA program, whether it's GI Bill or other things, you are a number as opposed to an individual whose needs should be met and a bureaucracy that should be responsive to those particular needs. Again, it's what bureaucracies create. It needs to be dynamically reformed and dragged into the 21st century, and tough questions need to be asked.
Got it. Pete Hegseth, thanks so much. Always nice to talk to you.
Thank you.
New details.